Welcome to this demonstration of SnapLogic and Microsoft, Intelligent Automation for the Enterprise. SnapLogic has been around since 2006. We process over 4.8 trillion JSON documents per month. That's a lot of data. The value that we offer our customers is substantial. Forrester reports their research shows 498% return on investment. I wish I could get that on mine. Hundreds of companies use SnapLogic, and we have over 100 explicit customers between Microsoft and SnapLogic. And some of these logos are pretty impressive, and they've been long-running customers for both of us. So the SnapLogic solution for Microsoft is we're an iPaaS platform that supports a hybrid deployment architecture. So customers have the ability to define their integration platform as they see fit. They can connect to any source that's available on the net, ingest that data, bring it to Azure, and deliver it to applications, deliver it to databases. So you can see the list of explicit what we call named snaps and capabilities that we have for the applications and services that run on the Microsoft platform. One of the most common use cases for SnapLogic is the automation of cloud data migration and the ingestion of data at scale using either an ETL model or an ELT model where it is appropriate for the volume of processing. So on the left, you see that as an integration platform of a service, it's not a question of if we can connect to an endpoint, it's a question of level of effort. So most of the most popular applications, and we have what we call Snap Packs for things like, Dynamics 365, SAP and all the rest of them. You have these that allow you to interact with applications, databases, file systems, either in a streaming model to support things like IoT. We have real-time trigger tasks for interactions on an ad hoc basis, sending and receiving data to the platform, and then finally ingestion of data at scale, typically done in a batch mode. And as I said, we support both ETL and ELT. So the transformation and validation of the data can be done in the SnapLogic pipeline using a traditional ETL model. And instead of writing code, you're using JavaScript expressions to validate, transform, and route the data. And when you're using ELT, you're delivering the pipeline to Azure Synapse or the cloud, and there you're then using the ELT Snap Pack to do the push-down optimized SQL operations inside of Synapse, inside of the cloud, inside of the database where they're most effective. A modern data infrastructure looks something like this. We have a variety of different sources that we have to deal with in terms of velocities and capabilities, the various types of ways that we get that data, whether it's through replication, workflow, streaming, just normal business process, and the storage. How do we store it? Where do we store it? In what format do we store it? SnapLogic is not in the storage business, all right? We store no customer data, end of line. All right, so let's look at all the things we have to do in terms of, the query processing, the transformation, the analysis, all the rest of it. Where does SnapLogic fit in? Well, here's where we are. We're in the ingestion and transportation space, and we're in the transformation space. And through our orchestration capability, the ability for you to create orchestrations that manage the entire workflow from creation to consumption quickly and easily using a low-code, no-code, drag-and-drop environment that uses enables extensive reuse of the artifacts that you build. So here's a high-level snapshot of what SnapLogic is capable of doing. It is unmatched in its depth and breadth of functionality by virtue of the fact that we do three things very well: application integration, data integration, and API management. Those are the cornerstone functions of what the platform does. Because it's all done in a single pane of glass with a low-code, no-code, drag-and-drop environment with a high degree of abstraction, the way I describe it is we allow the user to focus on the artifact while the SnapLogic platform under the covers handles the how. So whether they're a business analyst, a supply chain analyst, a financial person, and a professional IT person, or anyone in between, if you can write an expression in Excel, you can use SnapLogic. Snaps are how we abstract the low-level functionality to allow the user to connect to route, to parse, to format, to transform. So everything is a snap that is parameterized with either a JavaScript expression or a SQL function. So you're not writing code, you're parameterizing an object. So application integration, dealing with things like, Microsoft Dynamics 365 and other applications, interacting with them on a transactional basis. API management, as you build all of these orchestrations and automations and transformations, they need to be managed and secured. And SnapLogic over the last 2 years has become an industry leader in its marketplace in terms of the sophistication, capability, and ease of use that our API management team has built in the last couple of years. It's amazing. All right. As I mentioned earlier, we support both ELT and ETL with SnapLogic across a wide range of platforms. And because we are an innovator, and we were the first company to use AI as part of a product feature. Iris is 7 years old. We started doing AI back in April of 2017. So let's jump into the platform. All right, so as I said, SnapLogic has a low-code, no-code, drag-and-drop environment where we create pipelines or a visual representation of what we want to do out of these things called snaps. So over here, I have a catalog of snaps and whatnot, and I'm going to go down here to Azure Synapse, and I'm just going to grab the insert snap, drag it over here, and SnapLogic uses design time introspection, so if I want to be able to see anything, I've got to have an account. And also, because I want to plug this into something, I'm going to modify its behavior, because right now it's not going to go very far. But if I do this, now all of a sudden, I can have a more interesting conversation. But getting it directly out of the other system is not quite there yet. So let's go in here and let's finish configuring this. It's red, symbolizing that it's incomplete. So we're going to go in here, and again, design time introspection. Present the user with options. Don't make them type. Save. Now, normally I would change the labels of these to be more descriptive of what they are, but given this is a recorded video, let's keep the snap titles up there where they're happy. All right, so you can see here that I'm missing one piece, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in one of our new AI capabilities. It's called auto prep. All right, and so if I look at the data structure of what I've got, SnapLogic is a loosely coupled streaming document engine. No matter what data format it is, when we touch it, the first thing that we do is automatically transform it into JSON. So inside of SnapLogic, it's a string, a number, or date time in a JSON document, industry standard, that the user manipulates using either JavaScript or SQL. And then ultimately, the last thing that we do is the writer snap obviously converts it in from JSON into whatever else it needs to be, whether it's SOAP, XML, binary bitstream, EDI, or Swift, or anything else, just about anything out there. All right, so you see here that this is the native format, and this is what it looks like. So this is what I got from the CRM system. But what I'm dealing with here is I have a nested structure. This is one of the most common things that people have to deal with. So I'm going to open up AutoPrep, and I'm going to ask it to interrogate the incoming data stream and do an analysis of both the contents of each of the fields, the label associated with that fields, and then previous history of the platform on my own. It's going to come out and make a few recommendations. All right, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to flatten it, because if I'm going to put it into a database, I don't want to have, a header footer kind of table. So you'll see here that right now, this is what the format looks like. I'm going to go ahead and say flatten structure, update. It'll take a moment for it to go through, and what it's doing now is it's converting address.city, address.country to address underbar city, address underbar country, and adding them to the right of the data structure. So you'll see here now I have these guys available for me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into select fields, and I'm going to remove the, kind of hard to see, but we'll deal with that, object. So we're going to delete that because I can't obviously insert an object into a table. Handling nulls. It's already got a set of attributes here that it could set up for me. And if I want, I can change it, put in custom insert, ignore it, use whatever's popular. And so this is how it's handling nulls. Here's a review of the changes that I made to the data coming in. So you have the ability to, agree with this, delete it or not. It's done. So you can see up here in the gear that the pipeline is being validated, and I have a sample set of data that I'm working with. Now, Azure Synapse, because it is a write snap, the default behavior of all snaps is going to be do no harm. So if it's a read snap, it's going to validate and execute, so we have sample data. But if it's a write snap, we're only going to execute it when the customer or the user wants to execute it, not when they validate it. That way, we're not putting data into the system when we're testing. But I'm going to go ahead now and explain the rest of this. So this is going to insert that data into Azure Synapse. I'm going to take the output of that, and I'm going to prepare that to call this pipeline, which is then going to execute 22, or as many times as there are rows of data. In this sample set, it's 22 times. It's going to execute that the pipeline. It's going to consolidate them into one instance, send one email, and write one Excel file. All right, so that's how you can do these kinds of things by stepping them together. Let's look at another one. Here's an example where I'm extracting CRM to ADLS. These 5 pipelines here run in a single memory space as parallel threads inside of one. Each pipeline by itself, if it's in an individual canvas, is a single memory thread, or a single memory space, I should say. Some pipelines may be multi-threaded. In this case here, these 5 are going to all run in the same memory space. All right, and so that's going to load 5 sets of data into ADLS, and then this pipeline now is going to transform them. So let's go take a look. We open this up here. The ELT snap pack is platform independent. We go over here and take a look at the snaps. We look at the ELT. These 29 snaps allow you to abstract SQL functions to transform, extract, and do all the kinds of rationalization and projections that we need to do with SQL data. In here, I am defining the attributes of the operation that I want to do, whether it's an ELT load or anything else. Now, one of the most important attributes of the platform is our extensive use of runtime parameterization. The ability that I can dynamically associate an account with a pipeline means that I can support things like secrets management. So, Azure Secrets Management, CyberArk, HashiCorp, they're very popular key stores, and we support them. And so that's one of the attributes that you get when you have runtime binding. And so there's a lot of attributes within each one of these snaps that allow you to leverage that kind of extensive reuse. So I've got a parent pipeline here that's calling each one of these other pipelines in sequence to perform the extraction, load, transformation, and reverse ETL back out. Now, by the way, the reverse ETL that I'm using here in this pipeline is the exact same pipeline that I showed you in the previous one. So that's another example of extensive reuse of the artifacts inside the SnapLogic platform. Here's an example of a two-way synchronization that can happen either as a event base or on a schedule basis. We're querying a ServiceNow, and we're going to take the output of that, and we're here. You can see using the JSON $ notation. We have the before and we have the after of what the data looks like, and here's where we map it and how we do the transformations and renaming and everything else. And this is industry standard JavaScript. This is not the SnapLogic flavor. All right, this is industry standard, and all of the attributes available, all of the expressions, I should say, relevant to working with the document are all there, as well as the attributes of the pipeline, the snap, and everything else. So you have metadata and data available for part of the governance and lineage kind of thing. So this is what the data looks like as it's going on its merry way. Right. So we're getting it out of ServiceNow. We're verifying its format. We're inserting it into Dynamics 365. Because the result of Dynamics 365 is, yep, it worked, but we need the package. We've got a copy over here, so we're routing a copy of the data over that we got so that we can then join that with the, hey, yeah, Dynamics worked. We're going to filter that make sure we got the information we want. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this updated information, this contact ID, or as it's called, a correlation ID and its sys ID, and we're going to put that back into ServiceNow. So this is a two-way synchronization, very typical model or pattern that we see people using. Here's another kind of everyday occurrence. We've got a nightly file that we want to grab. It's a zip file. We want to format it according to a specific format that we have. So we go in here to the XML generator, and this is a legacy format that we're using. We expand it all. Let's make it pretty. So you can see here, this is the XML that we're going to use to apply to the spreadsheet. Right? Even though SnapLogic's data structure is JSON, all SQL aggregate operations are supported. So all 4 versions of join as well as merge is also available. So any kind of transformation and flow and whatnot is available to you. So we're going to merge those 2 things together. We're going to create the spreadsheet, and then we're going to write the zip file back out. So this is a very common thing, and this can be scheduled to run every night at midnight, that kind of thing. Now, migrating companies from legacy .NET Web 1.0 architectures to modern REST-based platforms is what we've been doing for the past 10 years. Here's a common pattern where we're going in and we're using the SOAP snap to go out and pull services and perform operations against legacy systems so that we can extract these services and information out of that, put it into, in this case here, Azure SQL. We're writing out a file, and we're also updating Dynamics 365. So these kinds of patterns of grabbing the data, going through and using options and attributes and selections as opposed to banging out code to be able to get things done. That is how the platform shows its value. And again, reuse is important. So here's a common air pipeline that I use that allows me to capture the pipeline runtime ID, the exact pipeline instance, and then when it started. And then I go in here, and this is the kind of information that we present the user or the developer for, hey, I got a problem. Where did all this come from? So you can see all of the attributes that I have. The error object is a default object that we create when there's a problem. Here's an example of SnapLogic and Microsoft working together for a modern customer. They're going through a modernization process where they're looking to reduce costs, to optimize their environment, to leverage more Azure resources, because as we all know, it's much more effective for most of the operations we do to do them in the cloud, as opposed to trying to maintain the infrastructure behind the firewall. And so, the ability for us to move customers in days, not weeks, to Azure is a huge advantage. And the reuse of the artifacts that we create is also an amazing byproduct and benefit for our partners and our solutions partners who build reusable solutions. We have whole consulting firms that specialize in Microsoft, SnapLogic, and higher education. This is an area where we've been very successful moving many customers off of legacy technologies into the cloud, making colleges much more, customer relationship friendly. I mean, from prospective student to treasured alumni, that whole life cycle. We've gone through modernization cycles for several of the largest and most popular universities in the world. And here's again the final thing that I want to drive home. Why take a week to do something when using SnapLogic you can do it in a day? That's the value. When you put an intelligent platform in the hands of smart people and get out of the way, wonderful things happen. This technology enables everyone to be able to get the job done to whatever level of capability they have. With that, I hope that you give us an opportunity to help you solve your problems and build your business. Thank you very much for your attention. Have a great day.